Story Day here at Inspired Coach Podcast, and I am so delighted to have your listening ears and heart with us for the beautiful, soulful and sacred journey of coaching and coaching success that you are about to hear ahead. It is with the beautiful Sammie Fleming, who is not only a beautiful you coach and alumni, but she is also a trainer with us at the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. And if you are someone who has ever been trained by Sammie, then you will know what a truly special and gorgeous human being she is, and how skilled and devoted she is to the craft of coaching. And if you don't know her, then you're about to step into her world in the most incredible way and get a little bit of an insight, I feel, into the incredible quality of trainers that we bring our coaches and trainees here at Beautiful You. I love this interview and Sammie's story so much because I love Sammie. And so it's not going to surprise you, I don't think at all, that there is a beautiful connection between the two of us as Sammie explores and explains her heartfelt journey as somebody that in a way truly feels like she's been a coach all her life. The coach that Sammie is now is for women who are ready to reclaim their true power and leadership. And she supports her clients to cultivate what she calls a deep inner confidence like never before, so they can rise into the next level of their life and soul work with ease while they are attuned to their natural rhythms. Sammie loves creating potent and sacred spaces through her one-on-one coaching, her intimate and powerful group program, which is called Expansion. And as well, she holds women's circles and retreats throughout the world. And she has a signature facilitation program called Holding Space. And so you're about to hear this amazing woman explain with more depth and heart about how she does feel that she has been a coach in a way almost all of her life, the unique way that she approaches working with people, some of the incredibly interesting pathways that she's taken along her coaching journey, including being a coach at a retreat center. And I also asked Sammie in this interview about a very particular form of marketing that I notice is very popular in the coaching and online space that she does not do, and why that is. And it's going to be an answer that you're going to want to hear. This is a special one. Enjoy Sammie's success story ahead. Sammie Fleming, welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast. I am filled with anticipatory delight at this conversation ahead and you sharing with us your success story as a coach. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Julie, thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, so happy to be here. Anticipatory delight. I feel like I want to tattoo that on my body now. It's a goodie.
Well, I always look forward to these interviews because really they don't feel like interviews to me. They feel like sacred conversations. And that's really how my other first podcast, the Priestess podcast, started, is that I just wanted to have deeper, richer conversations with people, specifically about their spiritual journeys and lives. And this is really what it feels like here at Inspired Coach as well, except it has a sacred business focus, a sacred coaching focus, which is really wonderful. You are, of course, also one of our beloved trainers here at the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. And so for anybody who is listening right now, you're more than likely about to fall in love with Sammie, because that's pretty much what happens to everybody that comes into Sammie's orbit. And so I do just want you to know that Sammie is the one of the wonderful trainers that you will get a chance to learn from if you ever decide to study with us to become a life coach. Sammie, I've heard you say before that you feel like you have been a coach almost all your life. I would love for you to share with us a little bit more about where that thought or feeling comes from for you.
It's only in hindsight. It's only in hindsight that I could really articulate that. Because now when I cast my mind back over the decades of life so far, the characteristics and the elements of coaching feel really pronounced in lots of different ways, even through childhood. And I know that lots of coaches speak to this. It's like who we are, it's a natural progression or organic profession to become a coach. So when I look back at my childhood, I see and can remember in a very visceral way a deeply sensitive child. Being a deeply sensitive child is not necessarily the easiest path, but what that did open up for me was heightened intuition. I remember being able to be in a space, a room of people, and really know how different people were feeling, sense it. Also, body language and tone of voice just felt like a very easy thing to read, even as a child. And again, that's not necessarily the easy way to grow up, because things you're not necessarily always in the rosiest of rooms. But nonetheless, that awareness, that intuitive understanding of how people were feeling felt really accessible to me. And that felt accessible through childhood, through teenagehood, through my 20s, up until I found coaching and was able to kind of put a name to how that skill could be used. Also, I have always been utterly obsessed with talking to people about how they feel. And so many people in my life and my world didn't really understand that because that wasn't as enjoyable for them as it was for me. I would, and literally do now, spend all day, every day, talking to people about how they feel, what they want, what they're dreaming into, what feels really ripe. And that took form in so many different ways, but it took form in like being part of mental health support groups, peer-led mental health support groups as a teenager. It took form as, I remember having I grew up in small town Aotearoa, New Zealand. It took form as sitting on the field. Is that what you call it in Australia? I'm not sure. Sitting on the outdoor field. And I had a dream deciphering book, and people would come and sit with me and would decipher their dreams together, and that's how I would spend my lunchtime. While others, you'd see clouds of cigarette smoke coming from the other side of the field, and there I was, like, deciphering dreams with your real party.
Yeah, with your little dream book. I can see this. I have the most delightful picture in my mind.
I started working when I was 11, which was then illegal, but happened. And I worked lots of different jobs through my teenage life. But I would save my money and I would go to the local, I guess it was like a local New Age style store, with the affirmations on the walls and the crystals hanging from the windows. And that's where I would spend my money. And I remember walking into that shop. Again, in this small town, I'd walk into the shop and I'd just feel like, there was a depth to the conversations that were happening in that store, which I craved. I have always been an avid reader. Books are life. Words are important. And I would get dropped off as a kid at the library. This is very much 90s parenting. I'd get dropped off at the start of the day and then picked up at the end of the day with my little lunchbox. And as soon as I could understand or at least read self-development books, that was where I was drawn. And so I was picking up, all sorts of teachings that were much beyond what my, I guess, spiritual self at that point could comprehend, but I was just really fascinated by it. So all of these pieces when I found coaching, felt like, the puzzle piece. Right, this is where it kind of fits. And it doesn't necessarily have to look like coaching for everybody. But for me, that felt like, a really organic home, a place to put those parts of me that were always alive anyway.
And it feels and seems to me, as somebody who has known you now for many years, since you first trained as a coach a long time ago, just purely to be this natural soul extension of who you are. And I'm so glad that I asked you that question to begin our interview today, because not everybody does necessarily, they don't even necessarily know what coaching is, or think that they even have the skills to do it and go on to be a wonderful coach and space holder. But for you, even though you might not necessarily have consciously realized it, it almost feels like you've been doing this since the womb. You've come out in varying different ways being a space holder for both others and yourself, which I know is something that's very important to you in varying different forms. And so, Sammie, in sort of switching into a more practical space, once you did find coaching and you trained to become a coach, that's some time ago now, and you're now running a thriving, incredible full-time coaching business, and you have been for a number of years. But that wasn't where you started. And so rather than just ask you to tell us that whole journey, because we could be here for a really long time, I'd love for you to share with us, if you can, a couple of really pivotal moments, or even a pivotal moment in your journey where possibly you went from doing it part-time to full-time, or you really found yourself in the right niche for you. What feels as though it's been a really contributing, pivotal time that's contributed to your success right now?
The moment that comes to mind as you say that, as you ask that question, is a point in time, must have been about 2 and a bit years after graduating from Beautiful You. So I had been building my coaching business. I'm a lover and a believer of a slow, sustainable build. In it for the long haul, in it for the long game, in it for life. And oftentimes that is a gradual build, which is sustainable. And at that point, I got a job I was living in Melbourne at the time, in about an hour out of Melbourne, in a little town called Dalesford, Spa Country, it's called. I got a job as the in-house life coach at a retreat centre, a holistic wellness retreat centre. And at that point, I was working part-time in another job. I was building my business, and then I took on this job. So it would be an hour drive out there. I'd spend all day out there. It was intensive. I would do one-on-one coaching back to back for about 5 sessions during the day, have a little break, and then run a workshop in the afternoon. And then I would come home and do some work on my coaching business and go to my part-time job the next day. And it was full, it was full and it was full on. But I had to pay my bills. And so what was required of me was to kind of hold multiple different jobs, really, while building a growing coaching business. I wasn't yet ready to go full-time in that. I didn't want to be full-time at this retreat center. I wasn't yet able to let go of this part-time job. And so here I was, sort of just like every moment was filled. And I speak a lot about, in my work, about rising with ease in our work. And what I don't mean by that is doing nothing, or like laying back and nothing happens, or just waiting for the magic to arrive. That's a part of it, but it's certainly not the whole story, because oftentimes it takes hard work, it takes grit, it takes determination and tenacity to keep showing up. And so there was this point where, oh my gosh, life was so full, and I was holding a lot of space in a lot of different ways. And gradually, over a couple of years, I realized, okay, I'm ready to release the part-time job. And suddenly we shifted into a more doable balance of retreat work and building my own coaching business. And I did that for a good couple of years. And that to me was such a profoundly important time when it comes to my coaching practice, because it really was practice. It was like, it felt like 20 years of experience concentrated into 2. It was an immense amount of work, an immense amount of intensity, an incredible amount of literal practice. And that really, that elevated my confidence in amazing ways, but also was the gateway really to me being able to then eventually go part-time. As the scales shifted, my business continued to grow, and I was in time ready when it felt right and good for me to leave the retreat role and go full-time. So gradual incremental shifts, building experience, practice, confidence, until it was time.
Yeah. Take us back to that time, if you can. Do you remember what it was like sitting down at your desk or waking up on the first morning where you had no other job and it was you were in your business full-time, fully sovereignly responsible for your own income? Do you remember that day or that time, how you felt?
Yeah, that to me felt like one of the most expansive moments of my life. I can see the desk. I was living in a different house, different country than I am now. I can see the desk. I can see the house I was looking out from my window at. It felt like saturated in possibility and excitement. And there was a tenderness too, though. There was a tenderness to like, oh my gosh, it's all on me.
Yes.
But I think I genuinely think because the shifts were incremental and I'd built up a knowing and a trust in myself, I also knew I could hold it. It wasn't a huge leap, honestly. It was a tweak. And so while there was this tenderness and this kind of like glimmer of, it really was hope, actually. It was hope and it was excitement, and it felt incredibly liberating. Honestly, I don't think I'm one to work for anyone else anyway. Self-employment suits my inner rebellion really well. And so, yeah, it was like, thank the goddess, here we are. It's time.
It's time, and you had worked for it, and that's not necessarily, that's not a blanket statement. It's not to say that anybody else hasn't worked for it at any point in time, that they make that decision for themselves. But yeah, I was just really interested to know, because I remember feeling this combination of both utter joy and excitement and also a bit of terror too. And I also built my business slowly and very foundationally. It did not happen quickly, let alone overnight, like we can sometimes think or even desire it to be. And that's a whole other conversation around the fact that often those businesses do not end up being lasting or foundational anyway, because they just don't have that solid ground underneath them. And I love how you mentioned that retreat work helped you build up that practice, literally practice, doing the thing of coaching so much, helped you build up your confidence and your self-belief. And so it's a natural progression that when you do make that step into full time, you're able to hold yourself better as a result of all of that experience. And so everyone, the reading between the lines there is that honestly, if you're building right now, the most important spend of your time is keep coaching, keep doing more and more coaching. Sammie, the business that you have now, full-time, thriving, beautifully successful, and I'm going to ask you a little bit later in the interview what success actually means to you, is filled with a lot of different touch points. And I'm not sure whether you consider that to be a part of your success, but certainly from my perspective, from the outside looking in, that's kind of the way it feels to me. You run retreats, you do online workshops, you have one-on-one coaching, you have long, rich, deep group containers. Do you believe that that sort of variety in the way that people can, in inverted commas, access you or work with you is a part of your success?
No one's ever asked me that question before. My initial sense is probably yes. I tend to work with many of my beloved clients across most, if not all, of my offerings. So oftentimes they might work with me in a lighter 1-month immersion, then move into like a group space, into one-on-one, back into a group space. Oftentimes we'll work together for years and years. And that variety has meant that people can stay in my world and my orbit in a way that suits their particular season well. But also, I think it allows for a variety of desires to begin coaching to be met. Because sometimes, for some people, a group environment is the most nourishing, incredible option. And for others, they need that solo, dedicated, no one else in the room space. And it also really supports the multi-passionate part of me that continues to feel alive and lit up by a variety of conversations and offerings and experiences. It means I get to create what feels really true for me too. That inner rebellion I spoke to before wouldn't love one thing only. I need to feel creatively alive, and that comes in multiple forms. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it works both ways. And this is a really, really important thing, is that you are providing a service. And I think that this is something, it doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but we're here to talk about your success story. And I think that part of your success is that when people come into your world, and this is obviously because you're a very good coach and very good at what you do, but you have multiple rich offers. That means that if someone chooses to, they can live in your world for a long period of time. That's an amazing thing for them. I know it's an amazing thing for you, because it's probably pretty evident to everybody that knows you within the coaching world, or is even just listening to this first time. You are not a surface level person. I don't think hardly any coaches are, in all honesty, certainly not the ones that are in our orbit at Beautiful You, but you go rich and deep with your folk. So it's understandable that they would stay in your world for a long time. And that's something that has then the capacity to create, from a direct perspective, financial abundance and success, right? So there's the through line there. And then along with that, it's how you love to work. So it's a win-win. There's multi-touch points there, which I think is really, it's really important. Sammie, something I've never asked you before, and I did mention to Sammie, everybody, I've interviewed Sammie many times and been in spaces with you many times, and I wanted to ask you some different questions today. And I'm not going to shy away from asking that one about what success means to you. I want to make sure that we get there as well. But I've never asked you this question before, and it's actually not even a conversation that you and I have had privately before. But one of the things that I notice in the way that you market yourself and you promote your work and you invite people in to work with you is, and you're in the space of feminine leadership. and you do a lot of work with creatives and space holders and coaches. And if you'd want to tell us a little bit more about that within the context of this question, then please do so. So you work with a lot of business owners, a lot of solopreneurs. But one of the things that I have noticed that you do not do in marketing and promoting yourself is ever actually talk about the money that your business earns. And this is something that a lot of other coaches do, and not just business coaches. Talk to me about that. I would love to. Tell me a little bit more about this. Is this a conscious choice?
Yeah.
I think it might be. And so I'd love to know more.
It is a conscious choice. And as you asked me that question, I felt my whole body solidify into knowing that that is my choice. And I feel like it's my choice ongoing. And truthfully, there have been moments, particularly in the highest of highs, the highest months or years or whatever, where I think, oh, that's probably like a great selling point. Maybe I should. But for me, it actually genuinely doesn't feel relevant for me, which I think might sound odd considering that almost everyone I work with is a business owner of some kind, a space holder of some kind. Not everybody. It's not an explicit truth. There are some people who work in a variety of different other creative and leadership spaces. But it actually doesn't feel relevant for me. And the reason that I say that is because I don't believe that financial success and numbers can also be an empty measurement at times. When we look at profit and revenue, a really high revenue might not necessarily be a really high take-home profit. So numbers might not necessarily tell the whole truth. But I don't believe that earning a certain amount equates to a really incredible coaching experience with someone. Some of the richest, I use that word almost ironically, richest, most incredibly impactful coaches that I know are not earning 7 figures or high 6 figures, or might even be working other jobs at the same time. And I suppose what I'm really interested in is rewriting, being a teeny tiny part of rewriting the story that your income isn't a measurement of the greatness of your coaching. I will also say a simultaneous truth for me is I'm a big celebrator of particularly women and non-binary folk earning really great money. So that is also true. Both things are true for me here. I don't think that you need to earn huge amounts in order to be an incredibly impactful coach. I think you can earn huge amounts, be an incredibly impactful coach, and not talk about the money. And I think you can earn great money, celebrate that, and invite people in to celebrate that for themselves. I love seeing some of my dearest friends and colleagues celebrate their income. That's so cool for me. It's just not for me.
Thank you. I am so glad that I asked you that question, and I agree with absolutely everything that you say there. I have not asked you that question because there's an underlying belief there from my perspective that it is a bad thing that people share or market what they do earn. Not at all. It's just, it was a fascinating part. It's a fascinating and interesting and unique part of how I see you market yourself and put yourself out to the world, because a lot of people do it. A lot more people do it than do not. And you're successful and incredible at what you do for lots of different reasons. And if it's one thing always that I hope these conversations and these podcasts ignite and inspire and share many, many different things with many, many different people. But if there's one thing that I really, really hope that they do is send out the message, there is no one way.
Yeah.
There is no one way. There is no formula. There is no, step-by-step process. There's nothing cookie cutter here about anything.
And I have had multiple people tell me that it would be a great marketing move to talk about money.
Sure.
And it's enough of a reason for it to be a no in my body, for that to be a no for me. And I think that our marketing is both practical and energetic. And so when it feels out of alignment for us to share something and we share it anyway, maybe that's not as magnetizing as we would hope it to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Sammie, what does success mean to you as a coach and a business owner?
How long do we have? I'm going to give you a different answer than I would have given you 3 years ago. And I give that timeline because I've got a daughter who's 2. And so that shifted things for me. It's shifted the idea of purpose for me, I think, in many ways. Success to me means finishing the end of my day, locking up my beautiful little studio, which is outside my house, and feeling like we went as deep as we could in our conversations. It feels to me like having the ripple effect that the older me is really proud of, that future me is really proud of. And ripple effect doesn't need to mean that everyone knows my name, but that the impact of conversations are flowing out into the world in all sorts of unseen ways. It means really witnessing my people rise and be celebrated. It also means financial abundance, because your girl's got to pay her mortgage and also wants to go on holiday. So there's that. It means finishing my day and feeling really, really buoyed and joyed at the work that I got to do, and coming home, as in walking 8 steps from here into my home, and seeing my daughter and allowing her to see what joyful work actually is. That I arrive back to her more energized, more connected, more excited, more inspired than before I went. That's such a great measure of success to me.
Beautiful. I'm so glad that I asked you that question, and thank you for the delicious interweavings of all of those things. That really comes through to me as just a life well lived, that the result of it is a life well lived, which is amazing. I've always said that one of the core tenets of success for me is that I am able to spend my time and my life in the way that I want.
Yeah.
And so there's an element of freedom there,
Sovereignty.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm so glad that we wrap up our conversation there today. Sammie, you are the embodiment of grace as a coach. Thank you so much for being such a beloved and inspiring member of this community. Oh my goodness, I have a wobble. We love you so much and are so grateful to everything that you bring to us. Thank you for being also a light for doing things differently and not necessarily in the mainstream way. that we might see all the time, because I think that that is just so important. You're so authentically aligned with who you are and what you believe and how you put yourself out in the world. And that means as an ambassador and somebody that is a graduate of the Beautiful You Life Coaching course and a part of this alumni, you are just the perfect and most wonderful reflection of everything that I, as the founder of this business, could ever have hoped for in a coach that is out there doing this work in the world. So thank you so very much.
Oh, Julie, thank you. Thank you for being a mentor and a guide and a teacher and a great friend and a sister to me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate this community that you have built that has changed my life in the most magnificent way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sammie. And of course, we will make sure for everybody that has now fallen a little bit or a lot in love with you, as I warned you all towards the start of this podcast, that may happen, because it happens with Sammie so easily, how you can be more deeply connected to her. And as I mentioned, if you ever choose to train with us in the future, Sammie is one of the trainers that you will get to lean into and learn from. And so if she's touched your heart in some way, that's something to tuck away and know in the future.